Hello, everybody, and welcome to Got Your Back. What the heck did we just watch? Wow. Edmonton Oilers and Chicago Blackhawks put on a show. Refs were definitely the co-stars in a game like this. What a game. Gonna break it all down tonight. Got Your Back YEG, we remind you, is brought to you by our good friends at Mr. Dirk. The iconic men's clothing store in Edmonton, founded back in 1939. If you've never been to the showroom, you got to check it out. Just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Beautiful new shop they've got going on there. Huge lineup of casual clothes, jeans, pants, shirts, sweaters, shoes, and on the more formal side, an amazing selection of brand name suits, sport coats, ties. They do it all. Even got customs and in-house tailoring. Mr. Dirk, a one-stop shop for all of your clothing needs. We say good evening to Jason Strudwick. How we doing, pal?
Oh, let's all just take a deep breath here. That was a hockey game. That was, the over-under was 6.5, and I said under because I thought the Oilers would really make it hard for the Hawks.
Yeah.
And I think the Hawks made it hard for the Hawks. They also made it hard for the Oilers. The Oilers made it hard for the Hawks. And they made it hard for themselves. I think the refs made it hard for everybody to understand what was going on. That was a full game. If there was whatever number of fans at the game and watching at home, that was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know what the fans in Chicago had to pay to go to that game, but they got their money's worth. They definitely got their money's worth, even if the home crowd had to leave a little bit angry. Before we dive right into this whole thing, I was on the phone today with customer service at FedEx, and the guy mentioned to me that I sounded like somebody, and it was driving him nuts figuring out who it was.
Oh, yeah.
And he finally figured it out and said, your voice is an absolute dead ringer for George Lucas.
Really? George Lucas. I can't say I'm overly familiar with the mellow tone of Sir George Lucas. I like his work, though.
Yeah, I like his work, too. I'm going to see if I can find some George Lucas here, although I don't know if this will work. This feels like it's potentially one second. I can't do that. It feels like it's a technical disaster waiting to happen. I was going to try and roll in some George Lucas sound here, but I think it'll get too messy. Anyway, has anyone ever told you sound like somebody?
No.
Other than Andre the Giant, voice. Maybe a little bit?
No, there's a lot going on in this voice. At times it's deep and sweet, like Jermaine Franklin. Other time it sounds like maybe there's a vice between my legs, squeezing the old junk. It's like it is all over the place. Yeah. And even I hear myself sometimes, like I'll hear an ad on radio, and I'll be like, God, who is that? And I realize it's myself. I'm like, oh my God. And it's not they don't like my voice. It's just all over the place.
Yeah, no, you got a good voice for radio because you got the nice bass. I have I have all sorts of filters and stuff going on with this microphone to filter out my squeakiness. Anyway, I thought it was odd, and I just wanted to ask you, if you thought I sounded like George Lucas. Seemed a little bit random to me, but anyway.
I'll have to listen to some. I don't know what he sounds like.
Yeah, and that's my bad. I should have had a clip ready to go, George Lucas, but okay, we got way too much to talk about to go on with any more of that nonsense. Let's break this game down, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. They got locations in Calgary and at Edmonton. DLR Vinyl, maintenance-free fencing and decking materials that you will absolutely love for years and years and years because they are maintenance-free. No staining, no sanding, no painting. You throw in the deck and you leave it, and it's absolutely amazing stuff that you just don't have to worry about. And that's the big thing. Once it goes in, you can forget about it. You can just look at it, enjoy it, sit on it, relax. I've got lots of maintenance-free products in my backyard, courtesy DLR Vinyl Products. They got locations in Calgary and Edmonton. Give them a shout or check them out on the website, dlrvinylproducts.ca. That's dlrvinylproducts.ca. I don't think there's any place to start other than Connor McDavid tonight, and we're going to get to the refs and the call and Evander Kane and the penalties and all that stuff. But Struds, after a quiet night in his first game after that injury that we saw him take, was a quiet night against St. Louis. McDavid just seemed to be on a mission early on in this game, and really for a lot of this game had the team on his back.
Well, when you have a guy like that, that's his job sometimes. Sometimes his job is to throw the whole team on his back and to do what he did tonight. And he did. I thought he was a half step faster, and more so than everyone else. Usually, especially in the first, you could see him buzzing and making plays. And it was like everyone was standing still. It's how I feel when I play against 7-year-olds. And he was just absolutely in the zone. But that's his job. It is his job, but that's what he can do. That's why he's one of the most talented and electrifying players on the planet. And for him to do what he did tonight, they needed him. They needed him to back-to-back. He hadn't produced offensively the last couple of games, so he found it tonight. What do you have? 4 points, 3 and 1, I think. Yeah. And he got it done, and he got the win. And you could see, after, sometimes it's hard to tell how Connor's feeling. As soon as that game was over, he went over and high-fived Leon. It was like, yes, we got it. Let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, well, and that's one of those nights where it was so choppy that I think it was hard for many players to get much consistency going in their game because it was just so choppy and there were so many penalties and it was so messy. And it was like McDavid was kind of like, I got this. I'll sit as long as I need to sit while you kill the penalties, and then I'm just going to go out there and do amazing things cold off the bench, which he did. He was really good and electrifying. I mean, lots of highlights with his goals and with his assists, but he also made some other plays, and we'll make the highlight pack, that were ridiculous. Like, did you see that one breakout on the power play where he grabbed the puck, went up ice, a guy approached him, he just sort of did a backward spin, 2 strides, he's back up to full speed, gains the zone, and just ridiculous command of every situation that he found himself in tonight. And he just sometimes he just goes next level. And I know some people think, well, why can't he do that all the time? But when he clicks it into that next level, Struddy, there's nobody else that can do what he does.
Well, to be fair, there's no one on the Hawks that can stop him, right? They don't have the Hawks impressed me tonight. Let's be clear. I thought they played a really good game considering where they're at in their team present and future and past. But Jonathan Toews isn't Jonathan Toews from a few years ago, right? So there's really no, and Seth Jones was trying, but again, it's a pretty tough. So Connor kind of was like the bully in the playground, that could do whatever he wanted. But the play you mentioned where he did the spinorama, I think what impressed me most about that is almost every NHL player can do it, but not every NHL player can do that and not lose a tremendous amount of speed, right? And that is where I was really impressed with that. And I think he actually did it twice. Another time he did it as well, more just closer to the red line. So yeah, he was on another level today. You could say that on the same side, Patrick Kane was on another level on the other side as well. Yep. He's like, hey, don't forget about me. I've been a pretty good player for the last 1,200 games plus playoff games and 3 Stanley Cups. So yeah, you know what, Connor, that's some nights what you need. You need your best player to win you a game, and then your second best player or your 1B best player in Leon finding a way to score with 30 seconds to go. Caleb Jones had the roller skates on in front.
Well, so you had Leon Draisaitl with that goal right at the end there that was really something. But then you also had that ridiculous feed that he made right through the crease. Although, Stalock was so good all night with poke checks and such. I was surprised he didn't try and pick that pass off. But the Nugent Hopkins goal, the skill play Draisaitl made along the goal line, and then he feathers it right in front of the goalie's toes, right on the tape of Nugent Hopkins, who, by the way, made a beautiful shot. But Draisaitl, who probably has had more turnovers in his game that he would like in the last week or two, he had some magical setups tonight through this game.
He did, and the power play. I mean, they got a lot of practice on it. It looked sharp, like it was on. It was passing well. They were moving it around, and it's hard. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think at times Leon is looking to pass it too much, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm thinking of a 2-on-1 he and Vander Kane had, and instead of just wiring a shot when the D-man was clearly playing over to Kane, and he threw it a pass that kind of got away from him. That's a shot. That's a shot right there. And I can't believe I'm telling a 55 goal scorer or whatever, like, hey, buddy, you got to shoot it here. But that's the reality, because as a D-man, I think everyone knows now he's tending towards passing more. And it's, I recognize how many he scored last year, but I think right now he's got to get back towards a shooting mentality. And I think when he does that, it'll open up some of those passing lanes that you're talking about. Now that pass was elite. But you know where I'm going with this? Like if D-men know you're cheating to the pass more often, and I know how many goals he scored last year, I think they're going to cheat a little bit more. So I think he's got to find a way to be selfish. And sometimes to be unselfish, you need to be a selfish player.
He's been a touch off on his goal line shots, or his side of the net shots too. Draisaitl has, like, he's normally, I won't say automatic, but if he has a half second and half the net, he's 95% of the time he's burying it. How many times has he gone high, wide, misfired? He's misfired more from his bread and butter spot this year than he did most of last season.
I wonder if that's not coming from the other teams. They'll recognize that's a dangerous play and they're trying to take it away, because I feel, and I mean, stats might say I'm wrong, but I feel like where he's shooting from is further outside the dots and maybe closer to the line. And he has made those shots before, but if you're taking more of those, I just feel like he's a little bit further out.
They're forcing him a little bit further out, so it's lower percentage shots is the point you're making.
Right. And I think that a foot or two makes a big difference, whether it's a foot or two towards the boards or a foot or two towards the goal line. That makes a big difference. That 10, 12 inches makes a big difference.
Okay, let's get to the call on Evander Kane here, or the night that was Evander Kane's. By the time that game finished, it felt like the disallowed goal was 3 weeks ago. Like, so much happened after that, and really it wasn't anything that swung the game, but we should dig into it because at the time it was a pretty critical moment in the game. First and foremost, let's dig in on the call. Take me through the sequence as you saw it, and what do you think of what the refs called in the moment and the decision they eventually made?
Well, I thought Seth Jones clearly directed Evander Kane into the netminder, Stalock. They all go down. Looks like Kane was pretending he was riding a surfboard with his hands in the air. He jumps back up. A shot comes from the point. Stalock makes that save, and Kane gets it and taps it in. I thought the ref showed goal. Now, I wasn't in the arena. It was a pretty long ways away, but I thought it showed goal. And then to say the call on the ice was a non-goal, I'm not sure how they can reverse that when they've initially called a goal.
Just let me stop you right there, and then you can continue. I actually checked in with the source at the league on this. They're actually allowed to huddle. And after they huddle, if they, they have their chit chat and they want to change what they saw on the ice, they're actually, I'm told by the league, they're okay to do that after they've had their huddle, because you are right, pointed right at the net and signaled a goal. So as a group, they change that call, and then it comes down to which side wants to potentially challenge or not. So that put the ball in Jay Woodcroft's court. And what did you see from there?
I thought it was a no-brainer to challenge that. I thought it absolutely no-brainer. I didn't see an aggressive move by Kane on the goalie at all. I honestly thought he got pushed in, and I thought Louis DeBrusk did a good job highlighting the fact that he was outside the blue paint. If you're inside the blue paint, I think it's a little different conversation, but he was outside the blue paint when that initial contact happened. So I would love to see a breakdown of why that is not a goal. I think that Stalock actually embellished it a bit as well. And should have been a goal. And that's not even with like Oilers glasses on. I would have said that if it had gone the other way. I think if it had gone with Campbell and whoever in front, I would have called the same way. What did you see?
Yeah, so I'm pretty on board with you. I think what the league will end up saying, if they say anything, is that it's incumbent on Kane to do everything he can to not run into the goaltender. And even though he's pushed, I think they feel he didn't make a strong enough effort to not go into him and maybe let himself fall into him a little bit more. Yes, Stalock recovered, but when he recovered, he had no stick in his hands. So he was affected in that way. I think that it should have counted. I think that there was enough evidence that he was pushed in. He got up quickly. I do think there was some embellishment there from Stalock. So you add all that together. First and foremost, they signaled a goal on the ice, and I'm not sure why they changed that. Like, it looked to me like that clearly there was interference on Kane, and it should have been the Hawks that were having to challenge. I think they got the wrong call on the ice, and I think they got the wrong call in the review, and it could have been a pretty significant shift in this game. It was one the Oilers were able to battle their way back from, but I agree with you. In the bigger picture here, Kane had an interesting night. The refs were clearly frustrated with him. How often do we see a ref call two separate minor penalties on a guy from one sequence? Normally, you cross-check a guy and you know you're getting a penalty. You figure, I could probably get away with another one here. Bang, a follow-up one. The second one wasn't as bad. He gets 4 minutes for that. Then the whole not necessarily get the benefit of the doubt on the goaltender interference thing. Then he gets the bench minor. They could have just given him a misconduct. They could have given him a misconduct, but they gave him the 2 to hurt the team. Yeah. So they were clearly frustrated with him, and it was an interesting night discipline-wise, not just for Evander Kane, but let's start there on the discipline front.
Yeah, so the double minor for cross-checking, I actually don't really have a big problem with it. Yeah. I think there's a lot of cross-checking going on out there. I think it should have been just a 2, but he was given a 4, and honestly, as the coach, it's Evander Kane. He's creating space for himself. This game, 10 games from now, when they come back to Chicago, I think he's creating, some space for himself. You've got to allow that guy some freedom and accept sometimes he's going to take some penalties you don't like, because there's going to be times, Shocker, where that might not be called, right? Yeah. That, or it might be both guys going off. So you have to give him that freedom.
And he probably felt like they had just missed one on him too, right? Because he was dumped in the crease there. Yeah,
they did, and I thought they did. That was a cross check as well.
Yeah.
Now let's fast forward past the non-goal of his. He's sitting on the bench. The refs know you're on tilt. You've already had a little interaction with him because of the double cross-check call, and everyone is watching for you to say something. I have Kane at fault, and I have the leaders of the team at fault for not saying Kane enough. Evander, we've heard you, because you cannot take that penalty in that moment. The refs have been calling a ton. Do you think they're going to let that go? They already feel that the game's unraveling underneath them. You have to recognize. So I'm looking at the captains. I'm looking at Nurse. I'm looking at Nuge. I'm looking at 97, 29. I'm even looking at Cody Ceci. I'm looking, all these guys. Hyman, hey, Evander, we heard you. Enough. Like, enough. Now's enough. Sit down. You have to be firm in that moment. If he pushes back, you go at him and you say, buddy, you're done. And then you have a conversation after. Like, there's a time where you let your buddies go. Then there's another time where you put them in their place because it's going to hurt the team. So Evander, in that specific moment, put himself before the team. That's what happened. He put himself before the team. The cross-checking penalties, no problem. Hey, man, these things, whatever, create space for yourself. But in that moment, he put himself before the team, and he cannot do that. He cannot make that play, but his teammates have to help him out in that moment. Not the coaches, the teammates.
Okay, let's go to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here, because Leon Draisaitl did comment on this a little bit. And a reminder that getting your furnace serviced now before it breaks down in the dead of winter is a good idea, because when it's minus 30 and everybody's furnace starts to go, that is not the time to get her looked at. Be proactive rather than reactive. It's always a good idea to have your furnace or heating system serviced and tuned up for winter, so you know that you won't have to worry about it, courtesy our friends at Weiss Johnson. Okay, to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Here's Leon Draisaitl talking about, he was asked by, I think, Rob Tychkowski from Post Media about all of the penalties that the referees were calling there, and if he talks to the refs at some point.
Some of these were just blatant penalties. There's no doubt about it. I think we were just, after the second period, just kind of talked within the group and just got back to our game a little bit. We were a little yappy there on the bench for a little bit, and that doesn't help. Just staying off the refs sometimes is a good play too.
Yeah, we were a little yappy on the bench there, and that's not ideal. So, I mean, he said we, but obviously Evander Kane's the one that took the penalty. So maybe a little pushback there, and maybe next time there will be a little bit of pushback on Evander Kane. But I agree with you. They need to, you got to rein a guy in who's clearly emotional, right? He was wrapped up. He was fired up, and you love that about Evander Kane in so many instances, but not harnessed the proper way, and it can hurt you in a particular moment, and it definitely did. Was not the only one with discipline issues. Darnell Nurse, how about that cross-check? Like, he gets blown up. Everybody sees he gets blown up on that shift. He gets hit hard, and he's not happy. Yeah. And then 20 seconds later, he's cross-checking a guy kind of in the side of the head and the shoulders right in front of the referees at the side of the net. To me, that was one of the ones that was, at that time in the game, just really, really undisciplined. You had Dylan Holloway taking 2 minors in his first game back. Tough for a young guy who the coach is trying to get you out on the ice, and stuff like that's happening. The other one I didn't like was Niemelainen's interference in front of the net. Just unnecessary. So there were some dumb penalties from the Oilers on this night, Struddy.
Yeah, you have to read the refs. And when the refs are in that mode of, like, they're going to call every fringe penalty, or you feel like they're going to, you've really got to kind of get your game sharp, right? So Darnell Nurse has to know he just got hit by a smaller guy. I think it was Blackwell. And you're mad. They're watching you. Like they see the eyes, right? And everyone knows when your eyes start rolling back in your head that someone's going to get it. And I like that about Darnell Nurse, just like I about that about Kane. Like I want more of that. I want more of that from the Oilers players, right? And you know, you go and do it. Everyone sees you cross check him, hits in the neck, and it goes down. And you know the guy sells it a bit. So 2 minutes. Holloway, move your feet. Do not put your stick parallel to the gloves of an opposing player, and it's unforgivable. I'm tired of making this conversation like don't look at the ref. If you put your stick parallel to the ice on another player's stick, you're inviting a call or the opportunity for the ref. That is, so don't put it there.
Or if you slash the hands, if you slash the hands, same thing.
But I actually think Dylan Holloway's second penalty, I thought he was doing a pretty good job lifting the stick from underneath.
But he was up in the hands. He was coming up at it from underneath, but you can see that it got the gloves, and they're going to call that.
Yeah, and fair point. But so you have to know that. So move your feet and catch up. He is not in a position on this team where he can take 2 penalties and think he's going to be constantly going back out there. But this is a learning process, right? Like I'm not beating up on a young player, but that's kind of where you're at, right? That's kind of where you're at in the program. So yeah, the refs. You've got to know what it's like. You've got to understand what the refs are calling, what they're not calling. You have to make a choice and say, guys, hey, someone on the bench that say, guys, they're calling everything. Let's play this as clean as we can.
Big picture. Oilers have rattled off 3 straight wins here. Penguins, Blues, Hawks position themselves much better. I would say, let's throw this one out tonight because it was just all special teams and bizarre. And it was a McDavid superhuman night. It just feels hard to judge much from tonight. Overall, you think it's fair to say, Struds, that the quality of their overall game has filtered back in and that it's trending in a much better direction than what it looked like it was early?
It is hard to evaluate the second of a back-to-back situation, right? Like I honestly thought they were going to try to lock this one down tonight. They didn't. It went a different way. The power play was more important for both teams. I didn't love tonight's game. I think there was a lot of unnecessary plays. Like Fogle, I love how he gets the puck, but he loves to throw pucks blind into the middle of the ice from behind the net.
Forcing the slot, right?
It is all the time. So he's got to kind of get away, and that's just very specific on one guy. But yeah, I'm it's trending in the right direction. It's not a finished product at all, but it's trending in the right direction.
All right, that was the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. We are far from done, though, because in our takeaway segment coming up, we're going to discuss Jack Campbell, the night he had, look ahead to the Battle of Alberta, and ask 2 questions. Who should the Oilers start in net? Who should the Calgary Flames start in net? Are either of those obvious? Lots more to come here on Got Your Back, presented by Mr. Dirk. Checking in with Sterling Dirk inside the beautiful Mr. Dirk shop. People ask me all the time, who is the Mr. Dirk, Sterling? I know it's not you. Who's the original?
So my grandfather was a tailor, and he came over to Canada in 1940s, opened his freestanding shop in 1965. So Mr. Dirk's an ode to my grandfather. He was a tailor, and we keep that ethos of like quality service and community embedded in our store every day. So if you come in, you walk in, you're gonna get a friendly face, a smile, and we're gonna get you suited up head to toe, get you some jeans, shoes, whatever you need. We got you covered.
1939 is on the emblem, and it means something. Truly local. MrDirk.com is where you can see all of their merchandise, or visit them in store right off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it
has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards, and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary.
All right, time now for takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC, the #1 dealership in all of Canada for 5 years running. Have you seen the all-new redesigned Sierra 1500? I have one. I love it. Comes in a wide variety of trim levels. I've got the Elevation. The Denali Ultimate, though, is the Shangri-La of trucks, regarded as the most advanced and luxurious in its class. Sherwood Buick GMC actually has inventory as well. They've got vehicles in stock. If you want to go look at a vehicle, you can actually drive one, buy one. And if they don't have it for you, they can get it for you quickly. Sherwood Buick GMC. You can visit their website, sherwoodbuickgmc.com, just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. Okay, Struds, looking ahead, the Oilers have the second edition of the Battle of Alberta coming up on the weekend. So let's dig in. And I want to get your takeaway on the goaltending front. We'll talk about Calgary in just a moment, but first, let's go back to the Oilers and the Chicago Blackhawks. Remember, Stuart Skinner's coming off a great performance against the St. Louis Blues. So now it was up to Jack Campbell to see what he could do in return serve. What did you see out of Jack Campbell, and how do you think it relates to the decision they have to make for Saturday?
Well, first off, it's got to be said, I think that the Oilers are still going to have too many good chances, and you think of the Patrick Kane goal, the hat trick goal, walking right down Main Street, 3 Oilers looking at the shot, not looking at Kane, the most dangerous player on the ice. He has 2 goals already that night. You've got to be aware of where he is. So I think this conversation has to also revolve around the play around the player. Although I will say the second and 5th goal, I thought Campbell had some tough times controlling his rebounds. I'd like to see some of those pucks getting swallowed up more than they did. So it's again, I think it's a tough night to evaluate Jack Campbell on this. But that being said, Skinner had a fantastic night against St. Louis. Again, the team, I think, was tighter around him. They were fresher. They were more organized in their defending. So that also be taken into this conversation. What did you see?
Yeah, I think you make a really good point that is really important in the conversation about who potentially should start the next game. That the Oilers played much better in front of Stuart Skinner a night ago than they did in front of Jack Campbell, whether it was the second of back-to-backs, whether they were tired. They were definitely looser. The quality was not there in their defensive play. And by the way, all the power plays and stuff like that, it just made the game so bizarre. So I think, to be fair to Jack Campbell, I agree with you that pointing that out is the right thing. With that said, Stuart Skinner's performance was so steady and so solid. I think you got to start him against the Calgary Flames. You couple that with the fact that, Campbell didn't have the great performance against Calgary earlier on in the year. Now, part of me would say, well, I'll give him a chance to get back in there and win that matchup because he might be the guy you need in the playoffs. But Jay Woodcroft has been talking about paying attention to what's in front of their eyes, what they're seeing. And, how many goals against was it tonight? 5 goals against is 5 goals against, right? Were they all Campbell's fault? Absolutely not, but it's still 5 goals. He didn't exactly lock it down, and there were some issues with rebound control there. So I don't think it's a punishment for Jack Campbell, but you got both guys playing pretty well right now. I think you have Skinner playing a little bit better in the moment where the decision needs to be made, and as much respect as you have for Jack Campbell, and yes, he's the big money guy, I think you start Skinner against the Flames. And I'm just checking the schedule. Right after that, you got the Nashville Predators rolling in, and you're wide open to throwing Jack Campbell back in against a good Nashville team. I'd go Skinner. You?
I'm going with Campbell. You just signed this guy for 5 years, and the first big game on a Saturday night, or the second big one. You're not going to play this guy in there.
Well, he had his
I'm
chance
sorry.
on the first big game on the Saturday night, right?
Yeah, but let's go back and watch some of those goals. You know,
Fair.
we have a lot of different things going on. So I always look at the goals against and I say, okay, was that a good shot or bad shot? Okay, I can live with that. Then I go backwards. What happened on 5 seconds earlier, 10 seconds, 20 seconds earlier? Like they could have been stopped, because Jack Campbell had some nice moments versus the Chicago Blackhawks. He had some significant saves.
Oh, for
that
sure.
I thought were timely. They were timely. But when you go back and look at some of the goals that went in, you know, how does the Max Domi pass a breakaway pass to Anastasiou from left side all the way to the right? I guess he was a right winger in this situation, all the way to the far side. And that's the first goal. Now, could Campbell save that one? Got a piece of it, but it got underneath his leg. So is that on the goalie to save it? Probably. But how did that breakaway happen? Right? How does that breakaway happen?
Right. There's lots of mistakes that happened for sure. And it was loose. But, you know, Stuart Skinner still needed to make a pile of saves. I don't have the number right in front of me.
36 or 37.
It's not like he had a carefree night. It's not like he did. He had a lot of chances that he had to stop. And that was a good team with arguably some pretty darn good goal scorers that were coming at him. And he absolutely locked it down. So I don't think it's so much about, well, Campbell wasn't good enough to deserve the start. But at what point do you have to just make sure that it makes sense for the guys who are competing for the ice time? It has to make sense. And I think that these guys are close enough, and that if you want to promote a 1A, 1B scenario, if you want Stuart Skinner to believe, hey, man, if you play well, you're going to keep getting looks. We believe in you in this way. If you want him to feel that way, I think you got to make decisions that make sense to the team and to the players. And for me right now, Skinner's game is steadier. Campbell had a shot against the Flames. I wouldn't worry about who makes more money or who's supposed to be the starter. Campbell, it's not like you're going to make Skinner the starter and Campbell's suddenly going to be a backup. It's just an important decision that needs to be made in the moment. And I think it's okay to do the math in the moment, Struddy, and not have to take the 500-foot view.
You put Campbell on the bench against Calgary, and there's a goalie controversy in Edmonton. It's that simple. That's what's going to happen. I'm sorry. I can't put it in there. I look at all, you know, I just cannot do that as a head coach. I've signed this guy for 5 years. And the first time they come up against a team that, you know, had a little trouble against, and I don't think he was that bad. I think that was the team that game. And you're going to put him on the bench. You got 4.9 more years with this guy. And that's the message you're going to send him. There's no way. There's no way I'm going to do that.
Okay, so the message you're going to send him by not starting him. You know, Jacob Markstrom survived, right? They started Vladar in the first Battle of Alberta. Markstrom is the clear-cut starter there, the clear-cut big money guy. Yeah. The Battle of Alberta was a huge game on their schedule. Daryl Sutter stick-handled his way around it saying, we want to give him one start a week. That was all BS. Yeah. He chose to go with Vladar against the Oilers because Markstrom's numbers are horrendous, and they had that history. He had the opportunity to give his starter a chance to get back on the horse against a provincial rival and get in there and we believe in you and win it back and all that, just like the message would be for Campbell after getting pulled. And they didn't. They went with Vladar. And you know what? Markstrom's a pro, and he's played some really good hockey since. Sure. So I just think that it's okay to go with what's right in front of your nose. And I don't think it's a goaltending controversy. Campbell won his game tonight. You know, Campbell's been winning some games, and he's been keeping his team in it. And you make it very clear in your messaging moving forward, he gets the next start. And at some point, like, they sent a subtle message starting Skinner against St. Louis. The fact that they were willing to do that tells me they're willing to start Skinner on the weekend too.
So let's go back to Calgary. So Calgary now, they do start Markstrom. He was a disaster in the playoffs against the Edmonton Oilers.
Yep.
If the Flames are going to beat the Oilers in the playoffs, let's say they meet this year, is it Vladar who's going to beat them or Markstrom?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe he's not. I don't believe, from what I know of Vladar, I don't believe Vladar can beat the Oilers in a series. So Daryl Sutter needs to get whatever it is for Markstrom. whether they have to exercise the demons, put some incense around different areas, they've got to get Markstrom figuring out what is going on in his head, because they need him. They need that big guy in the pipes, not Vladar. I love the name. I love the whole story. He signed an extension. They got Dustin Wolf for the minors. He'll probably get traded in the offseason, get him some assets back. I love the whole story. But Shocker, if you can look through your beautiful eyes and tell me honestly, you think Vladar is the guy that can beat the Oilers in a playoff series? Man, I got to get on what you're drinking tonight.
Well, he did. Listen, his last two performances against them, remember that exhibition game? He was off the charts good against the Oilers in exhibition. I can see.
Remember when Perlini scored 7 goals in the exhibition too?
I knew that was coming. I didn't know if you were going to go with Perlini or Ty Ratty, but I knew one of those two names were coming out of your face.
Hockey at its finest. I love it. It is amazing.
Never mind the preseason then. Okay, never mind the preseason. Battle of Alberta, right? October 15th, Calgary at Edmonton.
Yeah.
26 saves on 29 shots. Played a really good game. He was really good in that game. Why would Sutter be okay starting him then and not be okay starting him now? And by the way, I think we're going to go back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here. I've got a clip here of Sutter somewhere, and I can't remember where it is on my board. So if I just start pushing buttons, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm guessing right now. But I think as we go to the Weiss Johnson soundbox, this is Daryl Sutter asked about that question today.
I've seen a goalie that wins his games. Right? You got to make saves to win games. I mean, that's the biggest thing we needed is there's lots of opinions or ideas about how you have to play or what you have to do, or this guy or that guy. But what you really need is your goalies to have a really good save percentage. So that's 2, not 1.
Okay, he was asked what he's seen from Markstrom on that question. Yeah. Then Sullivan Valji, our reporter in Calgary, followed up saying, do you have a sense of what you might do on the weekend?
Just so you know, want and do is 2 different things, and I think it's pretty clear who our number 1 goalie is, and he's going to play lots of games this year.
So, no clear answer? I think maybe we deduce from that it'll be Markstrom that goes. It's pretty clear who our number 1 goalie is, and he's going to play lots of games this year? Or is there but not against the Oilers, on the tail end of that?
Yeah.
What do you read into that?
I'm not sure. I have no idea. Trying to figure out Sutter's trying to predict the weather. I have no idea, but I do know that I believe that to win a series in the playoffs, it has to be Markstrom. I do believe that. Vladar, thus far in his career, hasn't shown me that he's that guy. Now, he might change this year, but if I'm talking right now, with the playoffs started, I'd be starting Markstrom. That's my guy. That's my horse. And so, you can start Vladar, and then the Oilers play one more time, right? Don't they just play one more time?
They only got one more chance.
So you're not going to play Vladar again, or you're going to play Vladar again, and then you get into the playoffs, because the road out of the Pacific, you either have to beat. Well, you probably have to beat the Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights. Let's just keep it simple. I think the Kings are in the conversation too, but whatever. You have to beat some of these guys. So you're gonna have to go through Edmonton, man. If you're Calgary, and at the head of that, you got to have Markstrom, and they got to figure it out. I'd keep playing them. I'd say, buddy, you're in there. Go get it. Figure it out, man. Figure it out what you need to do.
The one thing, and for the record, I'd probably be going Vladar, and I would go Skinner. So we are exact opposite on both fronts. It's going to be fascinating. I'm going to text you on Saturday. We'll see. Now, we're saying, listen, there's 2 answers here. What would we do if we were deciding, and what do we think will happen? And those might not be the same 2 things.
Fair point.
I would go Vladar and Skinner. I think what we're going to see is Skinner and Markstrom.
Yeah. I think number 1, Skinner, Markstrom, you can't hide him from the Oilers. You can't. He's got to figure this out. He's got to figure out what's going on, because he is your guy. Now here in Edmonton, I'll be more surprised if it's Vladar than if it's Skinner.
Yeah,
and so I can live with the case, and that if it's going to be Skinner, okay, I get it. Campbell just arrived. I get all that stuff. But for Calgary, this is a non-starter for me. If I walk into that dressing room and I see Vladar at the top if I'm a Calgary Flame player, I'm like, so let me get this straight. Our $6 or $7 million goalie can't play against a team that just spanked him last year in the playoffs. When's he going to play against them? So you don't play him again in January, and then you got to play him in the playoffs. I mean, come on, they got to get him in there.
Either that, or they're going to look at it and go, "Oh, coach really wants this game. He's willing to sit our starter down who can't beat this team." Like, wow, we're playing for keeps in Calgary this year. We're willing to sit our starter, and because this guy clearly has been better.
So is he a good starter?
Well, just not
You
against
think
the
Mackenzie
Oilers.
Weegar's like, maybe he's not a good starter. Maybe we need a new goalie. Goalie controversy. You want to start all this goalie controversy.
Yeah, the one thing that is different for Sutter in this decision is that he doesn't have the workload excuse. When he played Vladar in the first game against the Oilers, they'd been playing a lot of games. The Flames don't play any games. They're well rested. So both guys, all things being equal, being rested and ready to go, it's a different decision in this moment than it was the last time around. All right, you can hear the music, eh? It means we're going to wind down.
I can't wait to see who's right. Cannot wait. And I know I'm right. Well, the coaches get it right. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Well, the result, right? We'll see what they do, and then we'll see whether it actually works out or not. All right. That was Takeaways, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC. And that'll wrap the podcast tonight, folks. Big thanks, Struddy. Appreciate you staying up late. We did this one post-game. I don't know. A little more energetic at night sometimes. You're a little dopey in the morning. I liked your energy tonight, pal.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you. I try to bring the zip.
All right. Big thanks to our sponsors, as always, Mr. Dirk, DLR Vinyl Products, Weiss Johnson, and, of course, Sherwood Buick GMC. Enjoy the game this weekend, folks. And Struds and I, Terry Ryan, will check in early next week with another edition of Got Your Back YEG. Until we talk again, have yourselves a fantastic Friday and a great weekend. Cheers, folks.